I'm sure by now you've all seen the news, and man, it's been a long time coming. We weren't sure what we were going to do when our time with Spotify was up, but as you can you see from the headlines and everything else, that this podcast, the What Are We Doing podcast, we have officially renewed our contract with Spotify exclusively for a deal. I won't give you a certain number, but some of the outlets are saying that, it's upwards of $250 million. And so we renewed that with them. And on the flip side, not only is the What Are We Doing podcast staying exclusively with Spotify, they're now allowing us for the year of 2024 to produce and push and repurpose the podcast to every other major platform. So be sure to be on the lookout to not only watch the What Are We Doing podcast on Spotify, but we'll now be on iHeartRadio, YouTube, Apple, Anchor, every single podcast platform. In addition to Spotify, of course, we are still Spotify first, but we have officially renewed our $250 million deal with Spotify. And we have now taken Joe Rogan's place. And so I don't know where his podcast is going to go. But basically, it was up in the air between him and us. Call Her Daddy got renewed. They got the same deal. They got their money, and they're being distributed to every other platform now as well, not just Spotify. Listen, what happened was Spotify realized that it wasn't going to be the end-all, be-all for podcasting. And if they actually wanted their artist and their exclusive artists and podcasters to do well, we've got to put them on other platforms because it's a pain for me to have to watch Joe Rogan on Spotify when I love and use and pay for YouTube Premium. So, you know what I mean? So I love that now, and that's going to be great. So now I get to watch Call Her Daddy on YouTube as well. So the negotiations were tough. It was between Joe Rogan and us. And honestly, basically, it came down to the setup and the producer. We were both, Joe and I, both going in for $250 million. But the issue was with Joe Rogan comes young Jamie, and young Jamie needs paid. And young Jamie can't fund his Twitch stream that he does sometimes, and his Tesla habits and everything else that he buys. I think sneakers and everything. So Jamie needs a salary. And so that came in at about $150 million. So at the end of the day, Joe Rogan was asking for $400 million, and I was only asking for $250 because I just turn a light and a camera and a few other things on, and that's it, babes. We don't got producers. We don't got editors. And my clipper, Jeff, shout out to you. He's affordable. So, you know what I mean? I came in at about $250 million. Rogan was at almost double that. So naturally, in order to keep as much content exclusive on their platform as possible, Spotify ended up renewing the What Are We Doing podcast, Call Her Daddy, and a few others. And now the fate, unfortunately, of the Joe Rogan podcast is up in the air. When we were in the room and in the meeting together, we just basically, Amazon was thrown around. I know Sirius just gave Jason Bateman and all their friends $100 million deal. So listen, do I think Joe's going to get what he's asking for? Maybe. I doubt it in this economy, but hey, it's Joe Rogan. He does the numbers, dude. But, you know what I mean? So, he might go to Amazon. He might go to Sirius. Who knows? But honestly, it's up in the air right now. The fate of the Joe Rogan podcast. He's probably going to put out an episode this week and talk about it. Maybe. I don't know. He might be keeping it under wraps. He might do his own thing. Honestly, it'd be smart. Now that I have taken over the number one spot on Spotify, thanks to my new deal with them, via the Joe Rogan Experience, Joe might just start his own, you know what I mean? Expand the mothership, have a podcast studio there, and just start his own network. Charge people $5 a month. Go to JRE.com and you get all the episodes you want. And boom, bam, $5 a month quickly becomes, $50,000, $500,000 a month. And now he's making millions a year. He keeps all of his advertisers. He's still going to get money from like AG1. He'll take, MeUndies and whatever other advertisers are definitely going to come his way. He'll supplement the income from that and, start his own thing. But Joe doesn't really need Spotify anymore. So we were happy to take that spot from him. I'm still waiting. I don't think the money has hit the account yet. But we're just waiting on that check to come through. So, we'll see, you know what I mean? We'll see. The team at Spotify has been great and I can't thank them enough. You know what I mean? It's certainly going to, listen, the podcast isn't going to change just because I now make, 9 figures, or have that in the bank, just because I have a shit ton of money now. I'm not going to, go out and just buy a warehouse and turn it into corpo, wedding venue, podcast studio, 3D printer racks, like the whole thing, to run about 3 to 5 to 6 businesses out of it during the week, and then host events and weddings and other things on the weekends to supplement the income and just make it a well-oiled machine that I've been talking about for the last few months with some friends of mine, and that's pretty close to becoming a reality really soon. I wouldn't do that, okay? So I'm going to stay humble. You know what I mean? You might see a cockroach crawl over me every once in a while. But, because, money doesn't change me. So you won't see the podcast really change at all in quality or quantity or anything like that. But just know we've officially taken over the Joe Rogan Experience with a $250 million deal with Spotify. And their fate, is up in the air. He might go to Kick, you know what I mean? He might go to like a live stream. He might do a Kick thing. He might do like a Twitch deal. I don't know. We'll see. But we're still going to watch. Obviously, we're still fans of the JRE. But it's been pretty great. It's been a pretty great last few weeks here at the What Are We Doing podcast studios.